Hey guys, so I just got done finally watching Wonder Woman 1984. I know it's been a couple weeks and it's actually been really kind of hard uh, staying away from spoilers for the last couple weeks with this movie. But before I get into this movie, talk about this movie, I want to say if you're expecting at all for me to make any comments about what's been going on over the last couple days. It's been a crazy couple days in America. Then don't watch this video because you're gonna be very disappointed because I'm not here to talk about that shit. There's been a lot of crazy shit. If you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, I live in America. For anybody who's watching internationally, I'm sure most of you've heard. It's been a crazy couple days. I've already got myself in enough trouble about what I expressing my opinions on certain things. Ruffled a few feathers, so I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about movies. I love talking about movies. Maybe bring some entertainment. If I could bring even some entertainment to people with my goofy opinions on stuff. As far as movies, so be it. But yeah, we're not gonna here to talk about this stuff. There's plenty other reviews. Plenty other videos out there that probably express their opinions on what's going on. This is not the place to talk about it. So, anyways, let's get on to Wonder Woman 1984. Wonder Woman 1984. Well, this movie, I liked the first one. I reviewed it back in 2017 when it came out. Really enjoyed the hell out of Wonder Woman, and that was like the turning point for DC when things started to pick up for them. Like they started making good movies finally. Like holy shit! Like up to that point, like every DC movie had sucked, and it was the turning point really. Even though people say, Justice League sucked, and that came out right after Wonder Woman, and I'm like. I didn't hate Justice League. It's not very good, but it's not a great movie, but I've seen plenty worse. There's a lot. I would rather watch that than Batman vs Superman or Suicide Squad. I'd watch that movie over those two any day of the week. It's a more, it's a better film, even though if it has problems. Yeah, it's not the Justice League movie I wish we would have got, but whatever. But yeah, DC since then has really knocked out of the park with all their movies as of late, and I was of course excited about them making a new Wonder Woman movie, and I was excited until about right before this movie came out, and the reviews started popping up. And I started hearing things about this movie. A lot of bad things about this movie. Some people even going as far as saying like it's one of the worst comic book movies ever made. I'm like, really? This movie? And like it doesn't look that bad. Like there's some pretty big hatred for this movie. I've seen a lot of people really not like this movie. I was very curious. Like it made me kind of curious and excited because I'm like, I want to see what is up with this movie, why it's getting this much hate, and why it's which is kind of funny because when this is a problem that I've seen a lot over the last couple years, where especially when it comes to like big tentpole movies, when reviews start coming in, they are always very positive, but then slowly but surely more negative reviews come in, and that's what they start overtaking the positive reviews. And I was like, what the hell is going on with that? I don't understand that. Why is always the first initial reviews always very positive? And then as more reviews start popping in, like towards the date it's supposed to come out, that we start seeing really negative reviews. I don't know what. It's fucking weird. But yeah, so I was very curious. So what do I think of this movie? Now, I'll be positive first. I'll say this. it's not the worst comic book movie ever made. Anybody who says that is an idiot. I'll just tell you that right now. It is far from it. I was not bored. I was not, like... I didn't really regret watching it. I wasn't really mad at it. There was nothing really I was really mad about. It was entertaining, and I was... I definitely was entertained throughout the whole movie. But saying that, this movie is a goddamn mess. It is a goddamn mess. I'm not gonna lie. It is a mess. Yeah, this movie has problems. It definitely has a lot of problems. I would be one of my favorite. You know what my favorite part of this whole movie was? And I'm sure I'm not the only person who said this. Was Pedro Pascal as Max Lord. I thought he was the best fucking part. He knocked that shit out of the park. Him as Max Lord is phenomenal. Like, he felt like a character that was fitting for a comic book movie, especially like he felt like a comic book character, and that's exactly what he felt like. He was fucking great. He was over the top when he needed to be, and like he made the movie really goddamn entertaining. And honestly, in a lot of ways, he was more like he showed more person. I like Gal Gadot, don't get me wrong. He showed more personality than she did. And for the most part, like, all the characters in this movie are really cookie cutter characters, especially people like Kristen Wiig, who basically is Selena Kyle mixed in with Electro from Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that she's that, dorky character that nobody notices and everybody just pretends doesn't exist, and she feels lonely, but then the main character kind of befriends them, and she starts to feel special, but then she kind of comes across some powers, and yada yada yada, and then she starts to turn evil, and yeah, you've seen this a million times. As soon as her character even popped up, I'm like, so she is exactly. I thought that's what she was going to be, and she wasn't. She wasn't bad. I didn't mind Kristen Wiig in this, and she's not like Electro bad or anything like that. She's not Catwoman at all, like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, but she's not bad in this movie at all. I didn't mind her, but like I said, Max Lord was by far the best fucking character in this fucking movie. Easily. Really, it's kind of hard to review this movie, so I was trying to figure out how I was going to review this movie, so I'm just going to go bit by bit what the things that I just want to talk about here that happened throughout this movie. Let's first talk about the first 20 fucking minutes of this movie, alright? The first 20 minutes of this movie... Okay, this movie's an 2 hour and a half hour movie. The first 20 minutes were the most unnecessary first 20 minutes I've ever seen in a fucking movie, ever. Like, you could cut that shit out, and it would have been the same damn movie. What was the point of that Themyscira scene at the beginning of the movie? Somebody please tell me. I know, the Robin Wright's character conveys to young Diana the message of the movie that you're supposed to take away from the movie. I'm like, yeah, they could have still conveyed that message and not have to fucking, and not had that scene in the first place. There was no fucking point to that scene. And then it's followed by that mall scene that is like, it's like really cartoony. It's really fucking cartoony, where Diana is... Now, it's pretty much was established in Justice League and all the other movies. She really quit being Wonder Woman, but then but in this movie, as you find out, she's kind of secretly coming out of hiding every so often. And one of the things that makes her come out of hiding is a random fucking robbery at a jewelry store in a mall. Whatever. I was just like, whatever. That was fucking funny. because apparently that's a very big rare thing that happens nowadays. But whatever, it's not like it's the 80s, but yeah, it was kind of goofy. I mean, even though it does set up the main thing, the main MacGuffin of the movie, the stone, and that's how that's established through that robbery and stuff like that. Yeah, it's still, you didn't need that fucking mall scene. It was goofier and shit. And by the end of it, like, that was fucking pointless. It's not as pointless as a Fear Obscure. At least there was a point to it. Fear Obscure thing was just fucking pointless. This movie, like I said, like, I was kind of going along with it for the first probably about 40 minutes of it, and I was kind of like, okay, this is not bad. Like, you know, you got the you had Max Llewellyn Lord carrying me along with this movie, and you also got Kristen Wiig as the, you know, Selena Kyle meets Electro, but not as bad as Electro. Still pretty good, like, and I'm like, all right, I'm kind of going along with this movie. But where this movie started to lose me, it made me go, what? Like, was when Steve Trevor pops up in this fucking movie, Chris Pine. I don't think that's a spoiler because, well, it's all over the trailers. Chris Pine's in the trailers. Chris Pine's in all over the promotions of this movie. You know he's in this movie. He pops back up. What I didn't know was how he comes back to life. I was curious when in the trailers he comes back to life, how that fucking happens. But when the stone is introduced, the whole main story of this movie revolves around a stone that grants wishes. It's basically monkey's paw, and it's basically a monkey's paw, but if it was a stone, and instead of like granting like free wishes, it only grants one great wish. You're allowed one great wish per person, and what you really desire, or something like that. But it comes at a cost, like in Monkey's Paw, the story of the Monkey's Paw, it comes at a great cost. So I automatically go, okay, that's how Kristen Wiig gets her, or becomes who she becomes, obviously, and obviously that's how Steve Trevor comes back to life, because throughout the fucking movie, apparently now Wonder Woman is just a lovesick puppy who's been mourning this guy for over 40 years. What, it's been like, well, not even 40 years. The first one took place in the World War One, so it's probably been like 70? So she's been fucking mourning this guy for 70 goddamn years and still longing for him and looking at airplanes. And that's her great fucking wish? Alright, whatever. Yeah, so she's like her one true love for like 70 years that she... So, I didn't even think about that until now. Wonder what it was World War One. The fuck? Anyways, so see, this movie makes me when you start thinking about shit about this movie, it makes no fucking sense. So she makes this wish, and the scene that I'm not making this up. When he's first introduced, some random guy talking to her, like, at this ball or gala, and he quotes something, he says something like, oh, I wish we had more time, which was something that Steve Trevor said to her at the end of Wonder Woman right before he died, right? And so she's like, where did you hear it? What the fuck are you saying? Like, apparently because nobody ever says that, but whatever. And she starts freaking out on this guy, and then, like, the camera like goes like a full 180, and when it comes back around, the guy is now Chris Pine. I'm like, what? like this random guy who you've never been introduced is now all of a sudden Chris Pine. I'm like, wait, what? What? And I'm not making this up. Chris Pine's soul or person takes over this soul or something like that, takes over this random guy's body and takes over his life so he can go bang Gal Gadot for like fucking hours. I'm like, for like, or like be with Gal Gadot for a few hours for majority of the movie. I'm like, the fuck? I'm like, dude. And then so what pissed me off mostly about this movie, it kind of pissed me off about this movie, is how they bastardized Wonder Woman. Now, in the first movie, it was established this girl is like hell-bent on, like, you know, saving the world at any cost, even if it cost her great pain or whatever, but she's all for serving the greater good. This fucking bitch. Sorry for my language, but this fucking bitch. It's established that this stone, very early on in this movie, it's established this stone was created by a god, a very evil god. And she knows who the god is. She figures out who the god is that created the stone and knows that he's not up to no good. And knows that this is not going to end well if everybody starts using the stone. And the only way it basically becomes Wish Upon. She basically becomes the main character of Wish Upon. Who's the fucking remember that fucking terrible, laughably bad horror movie from a couple of years ago, where she knows how to stop all this, and all she has to do to stop all this is basically just, you know, rescind her wish, you know, and let this guy live his life in his normal body and not let Chris Pine's soul take over him. And just, you know, she can stop everything by rescinding her wish or destroying the stone, but she doesn't want to because she don't want to get rid of Chris Pine. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like, she's a lovesick puppy who doesn't want to get rid of Chris Pine, even though there's fucking nuclear war about to erupt, and, like, the whole world is in fucking chaos all around her. She's like, I don't know, I don't want to give you up. I don't want to give you up. I'm like, dude! Like, I just, like, I swear to God, like, there's near apocalypse going on towards the end of the movie, and she is torn about whether or not she wants to get rid of Chris Pine. And if she doesn't, it could be the end of the fucking world. I'm not making that up. I'm like, dude, this was a character in the first movie who was hell-bent at any means of stopping that god Ares from the god of war by any means necessary. Now she's a lovesick puppy who just, because she misses her man for over 70 years, that died like 70 years ago, she doesn't want to give him up. I'm like, dude, I'm fucking like, what did they do to fucking Wonder Woman, man? I'm like, I don't... Oh, man, what the fuck did they do to Wonder Woman? They, like, bastardized her really badly. Like, what the hell? And then the rest of the movie, I'm not going to spoil really much of it. And, like, I'm not going to spoil a whole bunch of it. There are some uncomfortable parts about this movie, especially with what has happened over the last couple days in America. Like, there's some chaotic scenery going on where, you know, presidents are wanting full control power, and there's chaos in the streets of Washington, D.C., where everything's going to shit. And I'm like, oh, God, this is not really aged well at all. It's like, this is not really aged well one fucking bit. And I'm like, I'm just sitting there like, oh, God. And, oh, yeah, and then also fucking some randomly, I don't think this is a spoiler, Kristen Wiig turns into a cheetah. Like, in a special effect that made the, that made the guys who made Cats look like, or Cats laugh at them. I'm sure the makers of the CGI artists of Cats were laughing at that. How bad that was. It wasn't very good, but I mean, I've seen worse. But it's like, it only happens for the very, like, maybe 10 minutes of the movie, even that, maybe 5 minutes. She's a cheetah. I know her character is supposed to be named Cheetah. I didn't literally think she would turn into a cheetah, but whatever. That's fucking kind of it is kind of goofy, but whatever. It is a comic book movie, whatever. But yeah, the only thing that really, like I said, the only really, there's a lot of goofy shit in this movie, but like I could go on for days, but like the main thing that just drove me nuts was like how much they bastardized Wonder Woman. Like they made her. Like, what the hell did they do to her in this movie? Like, that was pretty bad. Also, the cameo in this movie was pretty fun. I liked the cameo a lot in this movie. I'm not gonna lie. I wish I would have not been spoiled the cameo a few days before I watched it. Thanks, Internet. I wasn't looking to find out who the cameo was. As I kept hearing there was a big cameo in this movie, I'm like, so I figured, maybe it's like Superman or Batman or something. I don't know. So like, no, it's not. It's even better. It's pretty fucking awesome. I like that made me smile, and it's a cameo that could pop up in future movies. I'm like, I hope so. At least I hope so. It made me smile. And any true fan of like comic book media, comic books or anything will love it. If you're any kinds of fans, I'm not the biggest fan of comic books, but it made me smile. It did make me smile. If you don't know who makes the cameo, you'll love it. I'm sure I'm not the only one who really loved it. But is it? Do I recommend it? It's not a boring sit. It's not like a movie I was just like. It didn't need to be 2.5 hours. Definitely didn't. Like I said, you could have cut the first 20 minutes easily. That I can tell you right now what you could cut out of the movie and make it shorter. Like 2 hours and 10 minutes would have been fine. Like I think the first one was like. The first one was like 2:20, which I'm sure you can probably find shit in that movie that need to be cut too. But I did like. Oh yeah, by the way, I did like when this was pretty funny. When Chris Pine's character comes back to life, and it's basically a fish out of water story in reverse this time, like how Wonder Woman was like a fish out of water in the first one, where she was like looking around, like Chris Pine's dopey face looking at all the new technology in the 80s was pretty fucking funny. He just had the most dopey look on his face that made me I just couldn't stop laughing about it. I don't know why. I fucking was laughing my ass off. It's like I got a good chuckle out of it. But yeah, that's just Wonder Woman 1984. It's if you want to watch it, I'm sure everybody's gonna have their different opinions on it. It's a mess of a movie. I don't think it's the worst comic book movie ever made. There's way worse than this. It's not like I think somebody said this is like the Batman Returns. Like almost like people are comparing it to Batman Returns. I like Batman Returns a lot better than this one. Batman Returns is a lot better of a movie than this was. Absolutely. I love Batman Returns. A lot of people don't like it. I think that movie's really highly underrated. But yeah, that's as far as Wonder Woman 1984. What's next? King of Staten Island I'll be reviewing sometime here in the next few days. Until then, I'll talk to you guys later.